In a quiet village surrounded by dusty roads and endless fields, where dreams often wither before they could bloom, lived a boy named Arjun. He wasn't born into wealth or comfort. His house had a thatched roof that leaked during the rains, and most nights they dined on whatever little his mother could cook. But what Arjun lacked in possessions, he made up for in determination. From a young age, Arjun carried a fire inside him, a dream to study, to grow, and become someone who could change his life and maybe one day help others do the same. While many children in his village accepted their fate, Arjun questioned it. He didn't see poverty as a permanent mark. He saw it as a challenge, one he would rise above. Each morning, while others still slept, Arjun would wake up before sunrise, help his mother fetch water from the well, and then run to school barefoot, his books hugged tightly to his chest. The school was several kilometers away, but he never missed a day. His feet were often blistered, but his spirit never broke. At school, he was quiet, observant, and often lost in his books. He sat in the front row, listening carefully, asking questions, and writing down everything with meticulous attention. Some of his classmates mocked him. They didn't understand why he tried so hard. "Why do you care so much?" one boy asked him once, laughing. "You'll end up working in the fields like all of us." Arjun smiled gently and replied, "Maybe, but I have to try." That sentence, "I have to try," was not just an answer. It was his motto, his silent prayer, and the driving force behind every effort he made. When Arjun was his final year of high school, he heard about a government scholarship that offered a full ride to a prestigious city university. For a boy like him, it was a golden ticket, a chance to escape the limitations of his environment and step into a world of opportunities. But the exam was tough, highly competitive, and very few were selected. Still, Arjun believed in himself. He studied harder than ever before. While others played in the evenings, he was buried in his books. When electricity failed, as it often did in his village, he sat under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp or sometimes even studied under the streetlight at the village square. He revised every subject, solved old papers, and memorized formulas like poetry. But when the results came out, Arjun's name wasn't on the list. He had failed. For a moment, the world stopped. The silence in his small hut that night was heavier than any words. His mother sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You tried your best," she whispered. "That's enough." But deep inside, Arjun knew it wasn't enough. Not because he had failed, but because he wasn't done. "I'll try again," he said. The next year, he applied again. He was more prepared, more focused, and more determined. But once again, he failed. People around him started to change. They no longer encouraged him. Instead, they started saying things like, "Maybe you're just not cut out for this. 2 failures are enough. Stop dreaming and start working. Life doesn't wait." It hurt, not just the failure, but the disbelief from people he cared about. Still, Arjun wasn't ready to give up. He kept telling himself, just one more try. The 3rd year came, and Arjun applied once again. By now, even his friends had stopped asking about the exam. They had moved on, working in shops, farming, starting families. Arjun was alone in his journey. This time, he poured his heart into his studies, sometimes skipping meals to save money for materials. He studied at night until his eyes ached and his body begged for rest. And yet, when the results came out, his name was missing once more. "That night," he cried. For the first time in years, Arjun let the tears fall freely. He was tired of trying, of hoping, of failing. He thought of giving up. After all, 3 failures were enough, weren't they? But then he looked at his mother, who had aged more than she should have, whose hands were rough from years of work, and whose eyes still carried hope, not disappointment. She didn't say much. She just brought him food, sat beside him, and said softly, "You don't have to prove anything to anyone. But if your heart still says try, then don't stop." That night, Arjun closed his eyes and repeated his silent mantra. One last attempt. This time, he didn't study out of desperation. He studied with clarity. He knew his weaknesses, understood his past mistakes, and trusted the process. He was no longer afraid of failure. He had seen it, lived it, and survived it. Now he was stronger. The day of the exam arrived. He entered the hall with calm focus. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He wrote with purpose. And then he waited. Weeks passed. And then one morning, while he was helping his mother in the kitchen, a postman arrived with a letter. Arjun's hands trembled as he opened it. He read it once. Then again. He had passed. He had won the scholarship. He didn't shout or scream. He just sat down, closed his eyes, and let the silence wrap around him. Then, slowly, tears rolled down his cheeks. But this time, they were tears of victory. His mother hugged him tightly. "I knew you could do it," she said, her voice shaking. Years later, Arjun stood on the stage of a grand university auditorium, wearing a suit and addressing hundreds of students. He said, "Everyone talks about success, talent, and luck, but few talk about failure, and even fewer talk about trying again. I failed not once, not twice, but 3 times. The world laughed. Even I doubted myself. But I chose to try one more time. That one last attempt changed my life. Not because the exam was different, but because I was stronger, wiser, unbreakable." He paused, looking out at the young faces before him. So, if you're tired, if you're broken, if you feel like quitting, just ask yourself one thing. Do you still have one more try left in you? If yes, then don't stop. Sometimes all it takes is one last attempt. And with that, he stepped away from the microphone